All right, well, welcome to this edition of Leading Through Unprecedented Times. Today we have Adam Phyall. Adam is a future-ready advisor, but also an incredible tech director down in Georgia. Adam, can you do our audience the favor of giving a little bit more insight into who you are, where you're from?
All right, everybody. Hi, my name is Adam Phyall. I am the Director of Technology and Media Services for the Newton County School District in Covington, Georgia, also known as the Hollywood of the South. We're about 45 minutes east of Atlanta, and we call ourselves the Hollywood of the South. Our claim to fame that we have a lot of movies and TV shows that are filmed here. A lot of the Hallmark movies, Dukes of Hazzard, Heat of the Night, all those things have kind of been filmed around here. And one thing that we do in our district, we really are really prideful of what we try to do with poverty work, and we have a high population of students that are in need. And so we try to do our best of making sure that all of our students are connected as much as possible.
Yeah, I'll simply say I may have to call you Hollywood for the rest of the show because I think that's really fitting, the Hollywood of the South. That's awesome. And, thanks for sharing that nugget of hope. In the chaos of our world right now with the coronavirus and everything's happening, there's just so much out there that takes hope away, just the uncertainties and how long is this going to last? And, how long are we going to have to do this virtual schooling and what's it even look like? So let me ask you this, though, from what are the obstacles that you've been facing? Obviously, things have completely turned head over heels in the past number of weeks. What are some of the obstacles you all are facing down there in your district in Georgia? But at the same sense, how are you working through some of them? What do they look like?
Well, one of the biggest obstacles, of course, is just the fact of the situation, how it all just transpired. It pretty much within a 24, 48-hour period, we went from trying to plan to have online learning to having online learning. Initially, I think when we were talking about it in our district, I think we kind of thought we had more time to prep because we saw the writing on the wall that we were probably going to have to shut down, but we didn't realize how fast everything literally happened. I mean, we went from one meeting to planning to meet and bring some teachers in to work together on some online resources to that next day, less than 24 hours later, we weren't going to come back anymore. So, it was like a whole 180 from what we were initially planning on doing and figuring out what was going to be our next step. So I think that was like the initial challenge that we faced with this whole scenario. And it's fitting I'm wearing the Star Wars shirt right here because it's a new hope that I like to say that we have going on right now. So as we met with our administrators and teachers, and we kind of did a check-in of where we are, and I told them I actually feel excited. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, what are you talking about? Why are you excited?" I mean, we have kids that aren't connected. We have people who don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I said, well, you know what? I'm excited because I look at this as an opportunity in our K-12 space. I really look at this similar to when we had the space race of the Cold War era and how we had this new focus on science and math in our schools. And we fundamentally kind of changed the way teaching and learning happened during that time period. Well, I see this as that seismic shift in our space that we know once this is over, our space will not look the same again. So I'm really excited to see what this is going to look like on the other side instead of dwelling on all the things that are going wrong now. Hopefully everyone is learning from these and kind of making their notes. So on the backside of it, we will have a totally different teaching and learning environment.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed. I mean, ask any person on this planet to find a sector that changed literally overnight, like our teachers have, like our principals have, like our tech directors have, to do what they need to do for kids. And so kudos to educators around the country doing that. Adam, for the next question here, one of the things I've always admired about your work is you're such a staunch advocate for traditionally underserved students. The idea of equity is something that you are constantly talking about. It's core to our work at Future Ready. So how are you all prioritizing our most at-risk students or those, our traditionally marginalized groups in the past? How are we making sure that they are really front and center to our decision-making? What does that look like for you all or from what you're seeing around the country? How are people doing that?
Well, a few things that we're doing, of course, like a lot of folks out there, we're trying to make sure that we have devices in our homes because prior to this, we were not sending all our devices home with our students. So we worked through a process of creating an online survey that our parents can fill out and requesting access to a Chromebook or to a hotspot if needed. But we also realize that not every family has access to the internet and are able to fill out that form. So what we decided to do is work with our food services because we're also doing the lunch during the day at various locations throughout the district. And so we work with SurveyMonkey to do offline surveys through our forums. So as our parents come to pick up their foods, they can request a device, a Chromebook at those locations. And so then we're able to take that data, make contact, and then schedule a time for them to come by one of our pickup locations. Or in extreme circumstances, we are making house calls for those users who, for whatever reason, they can't get out and pick up the device. We will try to come to them and provide at least one device. In some cases where we looked at were some households where there's 8 kids in the house. So, one device just isn't going to cut it. And so we wanted to make sure that we're able to provide multiple devices in those households because we don't want those students to fall further behind. Because that's one of my fears with this online kind of learning that we're doing. Because this is not traditional online learning. This is not traditional blended learning. This is survive till the end of the school year. What we're doing in some cases, but unfortunately, we have those users who are not connected, and we don't want them to be the casualties of this new age that we're doing right now. Because we understand those students have the risk of falling further behind if we don't reach out to them and reach them where they are, and they can become further disenfranchised with our system. So definitely, we're trying to make sure that we can make contact with as many of those families as possible, and we're also trying to connect with some of our principals also are. I'm in direct contact with them because they know their family. So they're able to tell me, hey, Adam, the Smith family, I noticed they're not on your list for device checkout, but I know that family is an impoverished family and they probably will need a device. So then we will reach out or work with the school to make contact to see if they need any support from us. So not just waiting on them to reach out to us, but actually reaching out to them to make sure that they have what they need to try to survive and flourish educationally in this new age that we're living in.
Yeah, Adam, you bring up such an important point, and it's so important for school leaders to not expect that perfection from our teachers. In my background, I ran a K-12 virtual school as part of our public school a number of years ago, and I will tell you, it literally took us about 3 years to get to the point where I was really comfortable with the level of teaching and learning. You bring up a great point of this is not this utopian-esque online learning, look where we are, aha. We've got great things happening, but we can't pretend it's really that case. This is really crisis management to do the very best we can to support teaching and learning on some end for our students, of course. Talk to me just a little bit about what are some of the learning experiences that you're seeing that are happening right now that maybe a month ago or 2 months ago you never even would have dreamed that are happening across the district, and maybe they include technology and maybe they don't. What are some of those experiences look like?
I think one of the really amazing things I've seen, and I'm really proud of my instructional technology team, they've been able to do some online Phyall sessions utilizing WebEx. That was kind of the platform we were utilizing in the district prior to that. We're having over 200 to 300 teachers are taking part in beginners for our LMS Canvas that we're using, teaching collaboratively with Microsoft Word. And we've been able to really meet the needs of our staff. And it really surprised me because we've had some success with after school classes or things of that nature. We're nowhere near the level of participation that we've had with these sessions. So it just really has floored me how eager my team was to set those up and how eager the teachers, well, not just the teachers actually, we've had some administrators, we've had our superintendent hop in some trainings. And it's one of those things where and I think a lot of tech directors can understand me on this one. Things that we've been kind of preaching for years. Now everybody's on board now. I kind of make the joke. It's like I'm the cool kid on the college campus now. Everybody wants to wear my Letterman jacket now. Like, hey, I tried to give it to you before. You didn't want it. Now you want me now. So that means it's really amazing and good to see. When you look at a bright spot from the situation, that's one of those things where I think a lot of people are seeing that opportunity there. And I'm also seeing a lot of collaboration with our staff. And that's one of those things that we've done, but it's kind of like, okay, I've done it because I'm supposed to, but now people are seeing that this is how it should work. It's one of those things through necessity. You'd be foolish not to collaborate with somebody, because as parents, some of us are juggling our kids, our jobs, and also helping and teaching kids. So it's one of those things where working collaboratively, they're seeing that many hands make light work. And so that's one of those things that I can truly see that's happening right now during this era that I hope continues once we kind of get back to our new normal.
Yeah, out of crisis certainly breeds opportunity. And, I'm
Mm-hmm.
shaking my head over here as you're talking about professional learning and thinking about that, because no longer is it, well, this is a nice to have and maybe you should try. Like, this is go time, baby. Like, you're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
need this for yourself. And so, yeah, as a former tech director myself, I completely hear with what you're saying there. Let's talk for a moment about fear. Everywhere we look in our nation and heck, around the world,
Mm-hmm.
fear is just running rampant. Yet, as an educational leader, you're continuously working to overcome fear, as well as help overcome fear for our teachers, for our students. So how do you manage that as an educational leader to really overcome some of those fears, to support others around you? What's that look like?
It's funny because it's twofold. It's getting them to overcome the fear, but it's also still wanting them to have some fear that's out there. Because I think a lot of our teachers have really kind of jumped in and embraced a lot of these platforms, and large on the embracing some form of fear, they kind of don't have the fear of what could go wrong. When you start talking about some of the data sharing, some of the whether you're talking about Zoom or Google Hangouts or Meet or WebEx, whatever that platform is, having a camera in a household. So there's still a bit of fear that I think our teachers don't have, because they don't have the knowledge to understand what could go wrong. So making sure that they understand all the protocols and things they need to have in place, and sharing that information, because there's a lot of guides that people have published out there as it relates to best practices for online meetings and online things. Because of course, you and I both know it's different using WebEx and things like that, or Zoom in a corporate world, versus doing it in a K-12 space, especially when you start talking about students underage. So having that ability to be aware, but still have a fear of what could go wrong, so you are proactive in that. And I have seen that teachers really kind of go, feet first into a lot of these platforms that have opened up their resources and said, hey, this is free for the rest of the school year. Hop in there and try it out. So, a lot of our teachers have kind of just, had the fear before of, I don't know, should I try this? Should I go for it? They really jumped in. But then also we want them to be a little bit fearful of what they're sharing in these platforms. If it's a general account that all users can get into, fine, go for it. But if it's something that's asking you to put in student data, you should have some fear of what could happen if that data becomes compromised. So we've been trying to make sure they still practice those protocols and kind of funnel it through my department, so we can make sure and you look at their licensing and user agreements to make sure it works within our district.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing up the privacy aspect of all of it, because, as we go remote, privacy doesn't going out the window. Privacy gets magnified in the
Yes.
work that we're doing. And, for our listeners today, checking out the Future of Privacy Forum, it's fpf.org, is one of our partners at Future Ready. They do incredible work. The whole FERPA Sherpa website is theirs. And I know they're working around things for this pandemic as well. And I encourage you to check out that site. So a couple more questions for you, Adam. You are so busy taking care of other people, fixing things, opening things up, doing whatever it takes as a tech leader. How do you take care of yourself in this process so you're not burning out? And what are the recommendations you have for educators for them to take care of themselves at a time where they could work round the clock and still feel like they have more to do?
And see, that is the slippery slope. I know, especially for us in technology. As I mentioned earlier, we are the popular kids on the college campus right now. So unfortunately, that comes with working longer than an 8-hour day. So I know personally, especially our first couple of weeks, it really took a lot of time away from my family, having me spending more time in my office, doing more work, being stressed out a little bit as it relates to juggling all the principals and their questions and the teacher concerns, and figuring out what this process is going to look like. So a few things that I've tried to really put in place is keeping my work in my office space. So I've told my kids, hey, daddy's not going to bring his laptop out of the office. So they understand when I'm in my office, daddy's doing work for school. So when I go out, I promise I won't bring it out of there. And so I've kind of made those kind of guidelines for my kids. And this week is our spring break. And so I made a promise to myself, at least for the first couple of days of spring break, I didn't do anything district related. I actually took a step back. First Monday and Tuesday, I was like, I'm not going to look at I'm not going to open my work account. I'm not going to reply back to any vendors right now. I put in my out of office email, and if I reply back, I reply back. But you still have to take that time, because you can work all day, every day, and you're still not going to complete all the tasks that are out there for you. So you definitely have to take that time, because you have to take care of yourself, and you have your family first. And my thing is, at the end of the day, I want to still have my job, but if I don't, I'll still have my family, and I still want them to like me when it's all said and done. So I want to make sure that I am giving them their time, and they appreciate the work that I'm putting forward to make things happen. But you have to have that balance, because you can't be all in the district and then forget about the people who are going to take care of you when it's all said and done.
Yeah, so well said. Balance and boundaries, really two important things that you hit on there. So two quick final questions before I let you go. When you think about the amazing work happening across your district, what are you most proud of at this point in time?
I honestly can say I'm just most proud of our teachers. I mean, when I really look on social media and see some of the things that they're doing in the creative way, they're engaging students with some, real-time instruction, some of the recordings and the things that they're posting on our LMS, it's just really it really, gets me right here when I see, because we do all this training, we've done all this training for years, and you don't get a chance to see it in the classroom sometimes, because unfortunately our teachers sometimes feel boxed in with the curriculum and with working to our state assessments. But now that the state assessment's kind of been like put on pause for this year, you're really getting a chance to see some of the creativity that our teachers have, and they felt kind of held back. Hopefully, after all this is said and done, they can see how those two, it's really one and the same. You can still do those things and meet our high rigor and those goals that we have in our assessment by focusing on what's right for kids. So I encourage, really excited to see that creativity is there with a lot of our teachers, because at times I was like, man, is it there? Is it there? But I'm saying, I'm like, oh yeah, it's there. They just weren't showing it, but now I'm seeing it. So now, going back to my point earlier, I'm really excited to see what our district and what teaching learning is going to look like.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one final question for you, my friend. Educators are all over the map with their comfort levels, where they're at, where districts are, requirements, and those kinds of things. If you could offer one piece of advice for the coming weeks with all the uncertainty that's out there, what advice would you give educators right now?
Stay focused, stay centered, stay focused, because your craft the best. So I want all educators out there to stay centered and stay focused on what keeps you going each day. You're not going to do everything right. We can not be political, but from the White House to the outhouse, everybody's making this up as they go along. So ultimately, if you stay centered, stay focused on why you're doing your job, you'll be fine. Because ultimately, when it's all said and done, let's get back, let's get a piece of paper out, let's write it all down, figure out what worked, what didn't work, and figure out what plans we need to put in place moving forward. So definitely stay centered, stay focused, and go forward.
Some great advice, my friend. That's Adam Phyall, everybody. Adam, thank you for your time today. Appreciate it, and keep leading the way.
Thank you, sir.